Hey YouTube, in this video I'm going to be doing a deck profile on my Revenger deck. So, haven't posted a video in a while. Actually, I've had these decks built since set 9 came out, but for some reason I just never uploaded them. So you guys saw the Lured one or the Ritual one. This one's going to be Revenger. I like this deck a lot more than that one. I like that deck because I like how it's a bit innovative in terms of how they came out with the Ritual 3 revolving around grade 1s. But anyway, this one's basically traditional Shadow Paladins or the Revenger Shadow Paladins, which was really the very popular for its time when it came out. So everybody remembers Raging Form Dragon. So he came out 2014, and now he's got a Stride unit to sort of revive him. So he was always like my favorite Revenger build. Him and Mordred Phantom, like Link Joker season, basically, Break Ride season. Drag Ruler was also pretty cool. It was a little bit slow though, and then the Legion one, Revenger Phantom Abyss, you can see from the playmat, he was very, very long-lived in terms of like how relevant he was. So anyway, let's get right into the deck. For Regiform Dragon, he did get reprinted as a rare in set 9, so he's relatively easy to get again. The artwork on the new one is pretty cool. He has like a spear weapon now instead of his weird looking sword thing that he carries, his crystal sword or whatever. Anyway, Regiform Dragon, 4 of him. You need to run 4 of him. It's definitely required because he has a Persona Blast skill, and you need a lot of Abyss Dragons for the Stride form. Next, the Grade 3 is the Grade 3 that replaced Mordred Phantom. Or some people were running this with Phantom Blaster Abyss. I never liked that because Phantom Blaster Abyss really works well with Judge Bow and Raging Form does not. So I felt like they're always meant to be in separate decks. So Slay Hex Dragon, he's really good as the best backup. In fact, now if you open up with Slay Hex Dragon in your opening hand, you never want to mulligan this back. You always want to ride this so you could get Raging Form and then get him as Stride fodder so you collect him plus another Grade 3 for this. So, yeah. So, otherwise, not that big of a deal, but definitely this is the best backup for Raging Form Dragon. So, definitely recommend running this as the lineup. I see some people running 9 Grade 3. I may try that. The only one I could think of that would be good would be Drag Ruler as a good one. There's also the Desperate Dragon, which came out with Drag Ruler. He's pretty budget also. For Grade 2, so this is where my build sticks with the traditional lineup a little bit, but it is a little bit updated. So I went with the Blaster Dark Revenger. A lot of people are running the new 11k attacker for Raging Form that helps on hit. It can counterblast ones, check top 5, search for a Raging Form, and get it to the hand. I was trying that out, and then I found out that it didn't really seem necessary. And I do like Blaster Dark Revenger's ability to retire the opponent's interceptors. So, and the deck doesn't use too much counterblast. The boss Stride and stuff only counterblast 1. This guy counterblasts 1. And there's a bunch of stuff that doesn't counterblast at all. For instance, this next card. So I'm running 4 Wily Revenger mana. She makes the deck work without having to play at a much slower pace. She just speeds up the deck. She allows you to call out any of your tech grade 1s that you need and get those effects off. And then retire them for Ramp Dragon or Raging Form or whatever, Diablo. So really, really good card. Definitely need 4 of it. And then the only other Grade 2 I'm running is 3 Revenger Jargless Angel. This card is in here to help get the double restand of Raging Form on Limit Break. There is a play with the Ramp Dragon, but in reality, in competitive play, you'll never see it. Because the cost for this is too high, so it won't really happen. But yeah, so this is here just to get the double Raging Form re-ride. So that's the only reason why that's in there. So it's the best one. Only problem with the deck is, as you can see, there's no 11k or 12k attackers, but it's not really needed because you do have retire power, so it's really good. Grade 1s, 4 Dark Revenger McLear Perfect Guards. They're the Revenger one. Just 4 Perfect Guards are needed. 3 Barrier Troop Revenger Dorant. He's in here because Blaster Dark Revenger's in here. So you can either turn Blaster Dark's effect into effectively a counterblast 1 with this guy, or you can just unflip if you need an extra counterblast for whatever reason. So that's why he's in there. Next I'm running 3 of a new card, Detecting Revenger Ife. So this card helps search Raging Form Dragon specifically. It's very good to combo this with mana. So what I do is, assuming I have Limit Break, or if I'm not Limit Break, if I'm striding, then I would use mana to get this, then rest it, check top 5, search for Raging Form. Otherwise, it's also good to open up with this on the field early, like call it and then rest it. If you go first, you ride grade 1, like let's say you ride a Dorant or something, and then you call this, and then you rest this and check top 5. It's just really good to help consistency. It's extremely good at helping consistency, actually. So I'm running 3 copies of it. Next, I'm running 2 Limit Break Enablers because they're 7k boosters. They're callable from mana, so you can instantly get Raging Form. So basically with this, it makes it so that if you go first, you're not necessarily losing that advantage that people go first tend to do because they can't stride first, but now you can Limit Break attacks, so it's really good. And then 2 Mauer, because Mauer is more consistent than Ife at getting Raging Form. The only thing is he uses Counterblast 1, and you have to already be on grade 3. That's why you don't need to run that many of this, because if you open up with this early, you can't use the effect if you call it. You have to hold it in your hand, so you can't really like rush the opponent down. Whereas if you open up with this, you can still use it to typically I always use it to rest, to check top 5, and then I give something in the front row 2k. So I could give Darkness Angel or Revenger or Blaster Dark 2k, so they can become 11. So the nice thing about this is the reason why I don't run 11ks is actually because this card can potentially either it gives me a card in my hand for free, or it makes one of my front row attackers 11k that turn, which is really nice. So that's why I run 3 of this as opposed to 3 of Mauer. Mauer's Counterblast cost is really easy to pull off with mana later in the game. This is just really good at building advantage early. So that's the lineup I went with, and it's working out really, really well. I do like Blaster Dark in here because he can retire the front row. For the trigger lineup, it's 4 draw, 8 critical, everything's Revenger, so it's the same trigger lineup that I've always ran with Raging Form Dragon. There's no reason to change it. And the starter is Frontline Revenger Claudus. I was trying out the new starter that is like a 4K. I don't like it because it's not a proper booster, so you can't form proper columns. Like you can't form a 14K column reliably when this is behind the Vanguard early to their 9. So I don't like when there's a 4K boosting and then they're able to block with a 10. And also 5K. This can also get you Blaster Dark Revenger if you need him. If you need like an extra attacker or whatever, and then he can retire opponent's stuff, and Doran can flip one. So really good, thins the deck for that reason. I like him because he's 5k, and with this card, it's not that big of a deal. So more searchability, I like it. Oh, and the other thing is with the 4K, the new one, like I found myself ending up retiring that thing without ever even using the effect sometimes. Like if I strode first, for instance. Anyway, moving on to strides. 2 True Revenger Raging Ramp. Only need 2, honestly, because in playtesting, even when I was proxying 4 of it, I would never see myself using it the second time. If you do need another restand type of play, you can always use Spectral Blaster Diablo. In fact, you only really need like 1 Blaster Diablo, but I'm running 2, so technically it's kind of like I have 4 cards that do the restand, whatever thing, re-ride. So anyway, 2 ramp. He is hefty cost, but he's pretty good overall. So I am typically able to stride him first. On most of the games I have the setup to do it. Otherwise, yeah, he depletes your hand of so many grade 3s that it makes it harder to justify running 4 copies of him later on, especially since I'm not running Stride Fodder. I feel like Stride Fodder doesn't really fit in Revengers because you want maximum consistency of always being able to either Limit Break with Raging Form or be able to have your Revenger targets that you need. So anyway, those guys. And then I am running 1 of the new Carnivore Dragon from the Ritual Trial deck because it gives this deck more retire power. It can hit back row. It forces the opponent to have to retire something in the back row occasionally if I ever use it. Diablo also does that really well though, so that's why it's not really necessary in here. And of course 2 Aura Geyser, because he sometimes helps if your opponent strode first and you kind of, if you're in a game where you're not getting your grade 3s fast enough to do a Ramp Dragon, then he may be a pretty good first stride. So usually my first stride is either him, Ramp, or Carnivore. Ramp, especially since I can pull the Limit Break Enabler with mana. Otherwise, if I don't have that set up, then I'm going to go into one of those two. Next, for Diablo, because Diablo's Diablo, I see a lot of people making a mistake of running only 2 of these. If you have 4 of these from your Legend deck, you run all 4 of them. I mean, he can just straight up win games, especially the second time you stride him. Because the first time you stride him, typically the opponent will throw their G-Guardians, and then, so that they don't have to retire anything, but it's like, okay, whatever, I'm going to swing with him again later, so you better be ready. So, yeah, there's 4 of him. He's just really, really annoying card to go against. I honestly think of him as BLS from Yu-Gi-Oh! He's just that good. You just throw him in the deck at max copies. Then 1 Drag Ruler Revenant, because it works extremely well with mana. I can mana into Mauer, get Mauer's skill, then retire Mauer for a Limit Break Enabler and make it 10k with this guy's effect. So really good setup combos. Same thing, if you don't have Mauer, you can get this. His effect doesn't use any counterblast, that's why I like him. Works really well with Revengers. So must have at 1 copy. And then 2 Plotmaker Dragon, because he's your good G-Guardian. Then 1 of the Ludwig and 1 Desmo. For me, Ludwig isn't that bad, because if I have to use him early, and sometimes I find myself in situations where I haven't used Claudus for most of the game, so I can just move Claudus up, because the nice thing about him is it is grade 1 or less, so I can move Claudus, and Claudus is a 10k shield, so that effectively makes this 25k shield, which is equivalent to Plotmaker, without having to have a Ritual 3 active. So that's why I am running 1 of him. So anyway, guys, that was my Shadow Paladin. Oh, and then Desmo, just Desmo. So that's my Shadow Paladin Revenger deck. This one's definitely my favorite Shadow Paladin deck that I currently play. Regiform has always had a special place in my card collection. I've always been using Regiform for a long time, and the deck is still pretty relevant. It's just not that popular anymore, but we'll see. Who knows? Maybe some people who play it in regionals may try it out or something, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. It's extremely consistent. It's probably the most consistent Shadow Paladin deck ever made, because of all the stuff like Mauer and this thing and mana. So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the deck profile. I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks.